सही है। अच्छा देखो, यहाँ से 2016 में जो है ना एक दफ़ा सिलेबस चेंज हुआ था, एक दफ़ा 2000 मेरे ख्याल से 7 में या 12 में चेंज हुआ था। और उसके बाद जो है 2016 में सिलेबस चेंज हुआ है। तो ये वाला जो पेपर है, यहाँ से ऑनवर्ड जितने भी पेपर होने वाले हैं उसमें जो है ना वो सिलेबस चेंज आपको मिलेगा, राइट। और उसके अंदर सिलेबस चेंज के अंदर पार्टिकल फिजिक्स वाज चेंज्ड, राइट। एंड जो सॉलिड डिफॉर्मेशन थी उसका मोस्ट ऑफ द पोर्शन वो उन्होंने एक्सक्लूड कर दिया था। एंड पोलराइजेशन उससे पहले 2016 से पहले इंक्लूडेड थी, दे एक्सक्लूड दें द पोलराइजेशन थिंग, ओके। एंड इन्होंने टाइम बढ़ा दिया भाई, सही है। पहले जो है वो 1 आवर का पेपर होता था, पेपर 2। अब जो है इन्होंने ज़्यादा कर दिया। सही है, 1 आवर 15 मिनट कर दिया नाउ। तो एक तो ये चीज़ हो गई है, सही है। तो यहाँ से भी तुम जितने भी पेपर तुम्हें आगे मिलेंगे, कोशिश करो कि 2016 से ऑनवर्ड 2020 तक, अगर तुम हमने 2012 से लेकर 2016 तक के सारे पेपर कर लिए, सारे वेरिएंट, ओके। सो 2016 से ऑनवर्ड 2024 तक कोशिश करो कि जितने भी पेपर हैं सारे करके जाओ। 25 का मार्च भी शायद आने वाला होगा या आ चुका होगा। सही है, तो कोशिश करो कि ये सारे पास पेपर विद ऑल वेरिएंट्स तुम एग्जाम में बैठो तो उससे पहले तुम्हारे सारे हुए हुए होने चाहिए, राइट। अच्छा, अब जब तुम पेपर करोगे तुम्हें कुछ चीज़ें मेक श्योर करनी है। सही है, सबसे पहले तो तुम अब यहाँ से ऑनवर्ड 2016 से जितने भी पेपर कर रहे हो, सबसे पहले तो तुम टाइमर लगाओगे। सही है।
Sir,
बोलो कौन बोल रहे हैं? यस यस फ्रॉन।
uh, you said polarization is not coming.
Yes, it is. Basically, polarization was included before 2016, then they exclude the polarization, and then they include again in 2022, right? So it is in your syllabus, but in these paper from 2016 to 2022, there was no, you won't find any polarization topic, right? Clear?
Okay. Could you say in English because it's a bit hard?
Yeah, okay, okay, don't worry. Okay. So you first have to make the timer, right? You first have to make the timers on. So yeah, and the second thing is
Sir, could
make the total. Yes. What you were saying
sir, could you repeat what you said
about what?
about the topics that are not coming? I don't know.
Basically, bro, next क्लास में करना है. We'll have to do in the next class, यूसुफ. कल करेंगे इंशाल्लाह. Don't worry if you did it. तो आप उसको लेके बैठ जाओ सामने and you can check it with what we are doing, right? अच्छा, so I was saying कि some portion of the solid deformation is excluded after 2016, and polarization is excluded, and some portion of particle physics is revised. Okay, so these are the things that changed after 2016, right? And the polarization is also was also excluded in 2016, right? Fine. So now you have to make sure that your timer is on when you're practicing the paper. So yeah, first thing, and you have to make sure that you complete the paper in 1 hour 15 minutes. And if you take longer time, then just stop the timer or just mark it. Okay, I did the paper with the timers on till this point, and then complete the rest of the paper. Right? Then then do the totaling. Right? Check it with a marking key. Okay. Mainly you can easily check the calculation thing directly from the marking key. That's very easy, right? And the theory, the laws, and the definition, you can send me the paper, so I'll check it for you, right? So these are the things, but you have to do the totaling and make sure to do it a tough checking, right? Don't give the easy marks, okay? Then also write the silly mistakes, okay? Like those marks that you consider not to be detected, but they're being detected when you're doing the paper, right? So just write them down. Okay, these many numbers are detected from the paper, right? So, and also analyze the fourth thing is analyze the weak zone, okay? You have to analyze the weakness, right? So these are the four things you have to do alongside with your paper, right? So first thing, you have to put on the timer, you have to do the totaling at the end, you have to count the number of silly mistake, like the plus minus mistake, or you didn't wrote the correct formula for that, or maybe the definition, incorrect definition. These are all the silly mistakes mark, right? And you should have to improve the silly mistake region, okay? And the weakness area too, right? So just when you are done with the rest of the three things, then just go through the paper and check which topic or which chapter is weaker, right? So and you'll know yourself, okay, like by reading the question you'll have enough idea that I may not be able to process the question right easily. So this is your weakness, okay? If you are finding anything or any question or any chapter like that, okay? So these are the four things that you have to make sure in every paper, right? From now on. Okay, now let's start the paper. आज भाई um, कौन करेगा? इमाद से करवाता है। इमाद, can you please read the question?
Define acceleration.
Mm-hmm.
Then
What do you say?
the change in velocity per unit time
Okay,
or rate of change of velocity.
rate of change of velocity. Okay, you can either write the change in velocity per unit time or write the rate of change of velocity, but you're not allowed to do to say the rate of change of velocity per unit time, right? And let me show you the examiner's report on that. Look, this was generally well answered. A small number of candidates use speed instead of velocity. Okay, you have to be careful with that. Okay, acceleration is a vector quantity, and vector quantity required a vector quantity, right? So it should be velocity, not speed, right? A significant number of candidates define the acceleration as the rate of change of velocity per unit time. Okay, which is the rate of a rate and not acceptable. Okay, so be careful. Fine, chalo. Let's move on.
A man travels on a toboggan down a slope covered with snow from point A to point B and then to point C. The path is illustrated in figure 1.1.
Okay, at rest means initially.
So zero velocity.
Good.
The slope AB makes an angle of 40 degrees with the horizontal and the slope BC makes an angle of 20 degrees with the horizontal. Friction is not negligible. The man and the toboggan have a combined mass of 95 kgs. The man starts from rest at A and has constant acceleration between A and B, then takes 19 seconds to reach B. His speed is 36 meters per second at B.
Okay.
Calculate the acceleration.
Acha, they're saying they have the constant acceleration. They're basically telling you something, or they're basically giving you a hint.
So to
Can
use the equations of motion,
Yes, very good. Okay, you can use the equation of motion directly, but they are also saying the frictional force is not negligible. So, which means they later on maybe connect this question with some sort of forces, right? But if the acceleration will not be constant, right, then you can use the work energy power, right, to solve for this question, right? Now आज भी कर लेते हैं. So acceleration, you have to write the formula v minus u over t, okay? And the final velocity at b is 36 minus 0 divided by 19. Do you have calculated? Yes,
for 1.9.
1.9. Okay, fine, please move on.
Show that the distance moved from A to B is 340 meters.
Okay. So, bro, they are asking you to show that, and show that question, you have to show each and every working, right? So they are giving you 1 mark, but actually you have to do it for 2 mark, right? Because they wrote the answer, so that's why they're not giving you a mark for the answer, but you have to show each and everything. Yes. What will you do? The initial velocity is 0. The final velocity is 36. Okay. The time is the time is 19. The accelerate no, the time is 19.
Yes,
ओ,
sir, 19.
ओए तो 1.9 कैसे आ रही है एक्सेलरेशन? पक्का पक्की बात है 1.9 आ रही है.
G is at
अच्छा
36,
ओके
yeah,
ओके फाइन
19.
फाइन 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 फाइन. ओके. सो टाइम हमारे पास ओके टाइम इज द एक्सेलरेशन इज 1.9 1.9 सही हो गया. अच्छा जी विच इक्वेशन वी कैन यूज?
Sir, UT plus half AD square.
ओके. प्लस हाफ ए टी स्क्वायर्ड. ओके चलो. एस इक्वल्स टू यू टी प्लस हाफ ए टी स्क्वायर्ड. ओके सो यू इज जीरो. सो ये पूरा फैक्टर जीरो हो जाएगा. हाफ ए इज 1.9. ओके. T is 19. 19 squared. Okay, how much?
Sir, 342.95.
342. 342.95. Okay, so we can round down to 340. And then by the way, zero point 0.5 into answer into 19 squared. Okay, exact 342 are available. Fine, fine, fine. Okay, let's move on.
For the man and the toboggan moving from A to B, calculate the change in kinetic energy.
Mm-hmm. Aja,
So you
um,
can just use half mv squared because initial velocity is 0.
okay, but you have to write the formula correctly, okay? You're not allowed to do, you're not allowed to say half mv square, okay? In some of the questions, they detect the mark on that, okay? So change in kinetic energy means half m and then change in v squared, just like that, or say v square minus u square, okay? And then do the calculation, okay? So half
So if we
m
do the calculation and do the answer, will we lose a mark?
without a formula,
Yes.
I think you lose both marks. Let me show you. Let's see if they're giving you mark on that. Okay, for this question, no, they're giving you mark. Okay, they're just this is also acceptable that you can just put in the values, but in some of the cases they won't give you any mark for that, right? If you just show the calculation without quoting the formula, then you will lose both of the mark. Okay, be careful. Okay, and if you don't show the calculation and just wrote the formula, considering it as a easy question, then you won't get any mark. Either not neither the answer mark nor the anything else, right? So कितना आता है?
61560.
615. Okay, sorry, 61560. So this can be rounded off to 6 2 1 2 3. अच्छा, one thing. Bro, एक बात मुझे बता सकते हो? At point A, because the examiner is changing the flow of the question to the energies concept, so that's why I'm asking you. So at point A, which type of energy will be there?
So
Yes,
GP,
only.
um,
Yes, GP. Yes,
yes,
because it's not
yes.
moving. Okay, so it's not moving. No kinetic energy is not moving, so no energy being lost in the resistive force, right? Okay, when it reaches it reach point B, which type of energy will be there?
So does it become on rest on B?
No, it has a velocity of 36 meter per second.
Okay, then it should be kinetic energy.
Only?
Um, yes.
No. उसने कहा कि friction force is not negligible.
So, but it has a constant acceleration.
So what?
The
If
if friction is not negligible, then we can use work done against friction.
yes, so you can say that the work done against friction will be there, right? Clear?
So, but it says constant acceleration, so the resultant force is 0, right?
No, constant velocity makes the resultant force zero. अबे कद्दू भूल गया है. Yes.
Sorry, sorry.
Okay. चलो. Okay. अच्छा. Now, if we say कि भाई what about the gravitational potential energy at point B, right? So if we are considering this as a reference, okay, so at point B, there won't be any gravitational potential energy, right? Because we are considering B as a reference, right? But if you consider C as your reference, right? Like C as your ground, so there will be some amount of gravitational potential energy left at that point, right? But I think they're considering B as a reference. So I'm taking the B as a reference, and that's why I'm not considering gravitational potential energy at that point, okay? समझ गया भाई कौन नबील बोला था नबील समझ गया अच्छा जी आ जाओ भाई आगे आ जाओ प्लीज मूव ऑन
The change in potential energy.
the change in okay ओके क्या करें भाई अच्छा now we are working for the man and the toboggan moving from A to B, okay, so we are basically finding the change in gravitational potential energy from A to B, okay, so change निकालना है, so for change you have to write the formula for change in GPE is equals to mgh mg and the change in h, okay, now m and g is clear, 95 into 9.81 9.81 सही हो गया into h, okay, now what will be your h?
So we'll use trigonometry to find that.
Good. So
We
basically
found AB.
you first need to know that your vertical your gravitational potential energy always uses the vertical distance, okay, it never uses the horizontal distance, right? So but we know that a से b का distance is 342, okay, or 340, right? So we can use sine theta 340 sine sine 40 will give me the vertical height, yes, okay, so h will going to be 340 sine 40, right? ओके कितना आ रहा है अच्छा अगर किसी
So
को कोई
two
प्रॉब्लम
zero
हो
three six and 5.
202 दोबारा
So
बताओ
203
203 ओनली
675.
ओके 675 fine so we can write 20 and एक sorry 1 2 3 okay so you can see that the kinetic energy is smaller because we found the change in kinetic energy, right? Change in kinetic energy mean initial kinetic is zero, initial kinetic energy is zero, but whatever the kinetic energy is due to the point B, right? So the change in kinetic energy is smaller than the change in gravitational potential energy. Can you see it? And difference कहाँ जा रहा होगा फिर?
For work done against friction.
Very good. Okay, आज अभी आगे पूछ रहे Okay, so work done against frictional force हमें निकालनी है. So we can subtract the two forces, we can subtract the two values. अच्छा, now बच्चे confuse होते हैं कि whether to consider these two values or to consider these two values क्या करें भाई? सही है तो तुम्हारी मर्जी है ज़्यादा बेहतर है कि तुम इनके आंसर्स यूज़ कर लो. उसने कहा कि use your answers in part 3, right? और तुमने आगे सॉल्व करना है, राइट? अच्छा बाय द वे चेक भी कर लेंगे हमारा आंसर सही आ रहा है. हाँ सही आ रहा है सही आ रहा है सही है चलो. So since they're asking the use your answer, so we can say that 2 0 0 0 0 0 minus 6 2 0 0 0 give me the work done against the friction force. Okay, बच्चों किसी को कोई बात समझ में नहीं आए प्लीज पूछ लेना. या तो मुझे यहाँ पे टेक्स्ट कर देना या कहीं पे भी कुछ भी कह देना. so we can क्या मतलब ब्रो कैंडी ब्रो क्या मतलब समझा नहीं मैं. देखो इसका क्वेश्चन का कॉन्सेप्ट ये है कि अगर तो मतलब हमने जो काम किया है, सो वी फाउंड आउट दैट एट पॉइंट ए द जीपीई इज 2 लाख आसपास, सही है, एंड एट पॉइंट बी काइनेटिक एनर्जी इज 62,000, राइट, which means if there won't be any frictional force between A and B, so you should have to get, or you should have get the kinetic energy at point B the same as the gravitational potential energy, right? तो मैं अगर यहाँ पे 200,000 की मिल रही है तो यहाँ पे भी you should get the 200,000 kinetic energy, right? But if it is different, which means the difference is basically consumed or lost in the work done against the friction force. Okay, this is the concept. Is that clear? So ये इस चीज को लेके हम आगे चल रहे हैं, आ जाओ भाई. So this will be equal to work done against the friction force. Okay, and work done has a formula of Fs. Okay, we know the distance as 340. You can divide that by 340. 340 और force निकाल लो भाई कितनी आती है.
Sir, 406.
406. So we can round it off to 410. सही है, 1s 2sf के अंदर लिखना होता है. So ओके, एक्सेप्टेबल, फाइन. अच्छा, इसकी वैसे एग्जामिनर रिपोर्ट देख लें, एग्जामिनर रिपोर्ट वैसे ऐसे कुछ कह नहीं रहा होगा, बट ओके. पहले वाले में वेयर वी फाउंड द एक्सेलरेशन देयर वाज आंसर वास्ट मेजॉरिटी कैरियर सम आंसर दैट वर राउंडेड इनकरेक्टली फ्रॉम 1.89 टू 1.8 और 1.90. ओके, फाइन. सो वेट, हमने क्या सही राउंड ऑफ किया? ओके, हाँ सही है. ओके, एंड देन they were very fine. The majority of the candidate gave good answers. There was some answer that started with the change. अच्छा, you have to memorize this thing. Okay, ये एक incorrect physics है. Okay, half v minus u whole square. This is an incorrect physics. Okay, and could not be awarded credit. Okay, so please be careful. Okay, if you are writing the formula for half mv, the change in kinetic energy, so change in kinetic energy has this formula. Okay, square should be inside. Okay, so ये तुमने जो है ना इसका ध्यान रखना है. Okay, and okay, fine. A smaller deadness. Okay, fine. The majority of the candidate obtained जहाँ पे हमने gravitational wave we found the gravitational potential energy, they're saying the majority of the candidate obtained the correct answers. Okay, a common mistake was to use the distance between the slope rather than the vertical distance. Okay, the minority used cos 40 instead of sin 40. Okay, fine. अच्छा, 10 मत यूज करना, you have to use 9.81. Okay, candidate found this part more challenging where we found out the friction force. Okay, so a significant number obtained the correct answer. A common error was to regard the instruction to use the answer. The method used by these candidates will usually determine the resultant force from the acceleration. The significant. Okay, so you are not allowed to use the other ways. Okay, because this would be considered as incorrect. Okay, so fine. आगे आ जाओ भाई, आगे read कर लो.
Parachute opens on the toboggan as it passes point B. There is constant deceleration of 3 meters per second from B to C. Calculate the frictional force that produces this deceleration between B and C.
Okay, now the scenario has changed, and toboggan आपके पास जो है. Okay, from B to C you are moving, and अच्छा जी, अगर हम यहाँ पे इसकी डायग्राम ड्रॉ करें, so basically let's say this is that toboggan, and we have the weight. Okay, मैं पूरा बना लेता हूँ. Okay, so the weight should be acting in this direction. Okay, and a component of the weight acts in this way, right, which is along the plane, and a component will be perpendicular to the plane. Okay, so the component that is along the plane. Okay, the angle is 20, I think. Yeah, 20. So the angle is 20, right, and 20. Okay, so that would be 95 into 9.81, या हम लिख लेते हैं mg. So mg, and that would be sine 20, sine 20, right? तुम्हें पता होना चाहिए कि the angle will be 20 right there, okay? So and this angle, this component is actually this one, right? So okay, so mg sine 20 make it move downward, okay, and there will be some sort of frictional force that acts in the opposite direction, so which we are actually finding, okay, and equals to the resultant force which is ma. So आपके पास आ जाएगा mg sine 40 minus the frictional force equals to ma, okay, and
Sir,
mass
isn't
is
it supposed to be F
uh,
minus mg sine 40 because it's deceleration?
um okay, you consider the a with a negative sign, or you can say the way you are saying. Okay, clear? Like I'm doing 9.81, सही है, and sine 40 minus f and equals to 95, which is the mass. And
Let's
since
try
it is a
20.
deceleration, so I am writing -3, right? मैं ये बोल रहा हूँ, right? So either you can use the -3 with it, or you can change the forces, right? You can make f positive and mg sine theta negative. हाँ जी, बोलो यूसुफ, क्या बोलो?
तो साइन 20 नहीं है?
Oh, sorry. Yes. अच्छा जी, निकाल दो प्लीज. So that would be 95 into 9.81 sine 20, okay, and then plus 95 into 3 equals f.
So 314.
314, so 310 ले लेते हैं. सही आ रहा है? अरे नहीं यार, गलत आ रहा है यार. क्या मतलब हो भाई? 600 आ रहा है, डबल आ रहा है इनका.
Sir, I use sine 40.
अबे 95 into 9.81 sine 20.
Sir, it's still very less, 33.74.
अबे 603 आ रहा है मेरा तो. 60, I'm getting 603. 603.603.74. So that would be rounded off to 604, or you can say 600. सही तो आ रहे ब्रो. आपका आया, आपका वो सही हुआ. ये समाज.
G, sir. I
Okay.
got it.
Okay, fine. Chalo. Acha, this part is considered to be a difficult one, right? I think so. Because the examiner says that where it is yeah. There were only a small number of correct solution. A large proportion of the candidate calculated the resultant force instead of the friction force. The significant number were confused by the direction of the forces and the acceleration and made error with the signs of these quantities. Okay, so this question or this part of the question is considered a difficult one. Okay, चलो भाई आ जाओ. ओके, कौन करेगा? रेयान से करवाते हैं. रेयान जरा रीड कर लोगे प्लीज.
Figure 2.1 shows a liquid in a cylindrical container. The cross-sectional area of the container is A. The height of the column of the liquid is h, and the density of the liquid is rho. Show that the pressure P due to the liquid on the base of the cylinder is given by P equals to rho gh.
ओके भाई, क्या करेंगे? थोड़ी हेल्प करोगे प्लीज. We know that any type of pressure equation is start with pressure is equals to force upon area, right? And in this case, the weight of the liquid exerts the pressure, exerts the force basically. So F is equals to weight is equals to mg. Okay, so I can replace the pressure equals to uh, mg instead of the weight over a. सही हो गया. अच्छा जनाब. And we also know that the mass is basically equivalent to डेंसिटी टाइम्स वॉल्यूम इक्वल्स टू मास। ओके, सो हम इसको भी चेंज कर सकते हैं। सो प्रेशर इक्वल्स टू, मैं थोड़ा गोला गंडा बना रहा हूँ बट ओके, रो वी एंड द रेस्ट ऑफ द थिंग्स रिमेन्स द सेम, g over a, right? Now you know that volume is basically the cross sectional area times height, cross sectional area times height. Okay, now you can replace that. So pressure equals to rho, and instead of v you can write a times h, and the rest of the things remains the same over a and a goes off, and you'll be left with pressure equals to rho gh. Okay, is that clear, Dan?
Yes, sir.
अच्छा, by the way they are giving you 3 mark. Let's see what they are saying in the examiner report. मार्किंग की भी चेक कर लो, मार्किंग की वैसे चेक क्या करना है, उसको शो दैट वाला क्वेश्चन में बोल रखा है। आई, अच्छा सॉरी, uh you have to use, okay, we use this one, we use this one, we also use that one, okay fine, and they are giving you one for, okay, so the starting was with this equation, okay, ये देख लो, the majority of the candidates were able to start with the definition of the pressure. Many were then able to work their way through the required expression, although many answers lacked explanation of the substitution being made. Okay, a significant number were not awarded full credit as they introduced symbols that were not used in the equation and were not defined by the candidate. Okay, you have to be careful. If you are introducing any new symbol, then you have to define it as well. Okay, a large number of the candidate equate the force acting on the base of the cylinder with ma instead of mg. The significant minority tried to prove the expression by equating the base in it, but this approach could not given credit. Okay, चलो भैया आ जाओ, आगे चलते हैं। अच्छा, we are, okay, we are introducing the weight, so we have to say this is the weight. Okay, this is the weight. Okay, and this is the mass. Okay, so if you are introducing something, just say it. सही हो गया, so that you'll get the mark for that. चलो आगे आ जाओ, please read कर लो।
The variation of height h with the total pressure P on the base of the cylinder in A is shown in figure 2.2. Explain why the line of the graph does not pass the region 0, 0.
आसान सा आंसर है, आसान सा आंसर है, एटमॉस्फेरिक प्रेशर, फेरिक प्रेशर, राइट। तुम्हें दिख रहा है कि भाई 1 एक्सपोनेंट 5 पास्कल्स का जो प्रेशर होता है वो एटमॉस्फेयर का होता है, एटमॉस्फेयर प्रेशर होता है, फिर उससे ऊपर जो है द प्रेशर ड्यू टू द लिक्विड। ओके फाइन, आगे आ जाओ।
Use data from figure 2.2 to calculate the density of the liquid cylinder.
ओके, फॉर्मूला हमारे पास है प्रेशर इक्वल्स टू रो जी एच। ओके, व्हाट वी कैन डू बाय द वे, एनी आइडिया, कैन वी यूज अ ग्राफ समवे? यस रेयान।
Um,
What will the gradient give us? It will give us the pressure over H. Okay, from the actual equation, which is pressure is equals to rho G and H. From the gradient, we can find out the pressure over H. We know that G is 9.81. So we can just divide. Okay, so this whole thing is a gradient. This whole thing is a gradient. Okay, so gradient divided by 9.81. 9.81 gives us height. Okay, is that clear? Yes, is that clear, guys?
yes.
Okay, जी आ जाओ।
So it gives us height or density.
आप sorry, yes, density, density. Okay, so gradient निकाल लो भाई, 1,0, and the other point is you can take this one. Okay, so 1.5, 3. Okay, so 3 exponent 5 minus 1 exponent 5 divided by, you have to be very careful with the axes, okay? So तुम्हें जब भी कोई भी ग्राफ दिया हुआ हो, so first always check the axis, right? So वहाँ पे तो exponent 5 है, but over here it's just meter, so you don't need to worry about the x-axis, okay? So and 1.5 down there, 1.5, okay? So this is a gradient, okay? And if you multiply with 9.81 in the denominator, you'll get the density, okay? निकाल दो प्लीज, कितनी आती है? Yes, how much?
So 13,600.
13,000, उसका मतलब है मरकरी है मेरे ख्याल से। 13,600, ओके, सही है। So you can say 14,000, or I think 13,000. Okay, 14,000 is also acceptable. It's better to say 14,000, okay, because it isn't too SF then. आ जाओ भाई। छोटा सा क्वेश्चन है, कौन करवाएगा भाई? कैंडी से करवाते हैं। कैंडी ब्रो, कैन यू रीड द क्वेश्चन? माइक सही है? अरे यार, एक इंसान कब बनोगे तुम? खर्चा कर लो ना थोड़ा सा। अच्छा जी, इरफान, यू हैव टू डू द क्वेश्चन। क्या फायदा होगा
Define
भाई
Young's
सीएस के
modulus.
बाद? ओके, यस।
It's a ratio of stress over strain.
ओके, सो द रेशियो ऑफ स्ट्रेस और स्ट्रेन। अच्छा, we just look at the examiner report. Okay, they're not saying anything. Fine, आगे आ जाए, please read the question.
The Young's modulus of steel is 1.9 into 10 to the power 11 Pascal. And the Young's modulus of copper is 1.2 into 10 to the power 11 Pascal. This steel wire and copper wire each have the same cross-sectional area and length. The two wires are extended by equal force. Use the definition of Young's modulus to determine the ratio. Extension of the copper wire divided by extension of the steel.
Mm-hmm. Okay, they're saying the same cross section area and the same length and equal forces. Okay, so if you write the formula, E is equals to FL upon AE, okay, and make E the subject, small e the subject, small e is representing the extension, okay, sorry, E equals to FL over AE, okay. So you can see directly that the extension and the rest of the things are constant. F, L, and A are constant, right? So you don't have to consider them in your ratio, right? Only E decides the ratio. The capital E decides the ratio, and you can see that the extension, the small e, and the young modulus, the capital E, are inversely related. So you can see that, you can say that the extension of the copper divided by the extension of the steel is basically equal to the young modulus of the copper divided by, sorry, the steel divided by the Young modulus of copper, okay. And you can just put in the values. So Young modulus of the steel is 1.9 exponent 11 divided by 1.2 exponent 11, okay. So 1.9 and 1 exponent 11 goes off, and there will be lesser than less than 1, नहीं, लेस देन ही, ग्रेटर देन 1 होना चाहिए। Yes, how much?
1.58.
1.5, okay, 1.6 then. 1.6, let's see. 1.6. Acha, by the way, Okay, we acha look. So they are giving you 3 mark. Okay. So first for writing this formula. Okay. And the second to either say that this is like E is inversely related with the capital E, or make the ratio thing. Okay. So I wrote this one and not that one. So and then you have to put in the quantities. Okay. And if we just go through the examiner report. So number of candidates ignore the command in this question using the definition solution at Shazana Young model the often many correct solution for the ratio. The representation of these solutions were often very difficult to follow. Many expression had no subject but just an equal sign followed by numerical ratio. The inverse ratio was often given, and the lack of clear representation was considered the main reason for error. Okay, candidates should be reminded not to give the final answer as a fraction. Okay, so be careful. You have to show each and everything clearly. Alichis. Okay, and अच्छा ये maths में जो है ना we just used to say equal to and then we wrote the whole expression and say equal to and then write the other expression, right? And we didn't mention the subject, right? So over here you have to mention the subjects as well. Okay, and do not write your answer in fraction form. Okay, this is not acceptable. Fine. So fine. Okay, let's move on, please.
The two wires are each extended by a force. Both wires obey Hooke's law. On figure 3.1, sketch a graph for each wire to show the variation with extension of the force. Label the
Okay.
steel line with letter S and the line for copper with letter C.
Right. So, bro, can you tell me the difference between the two line, by the way? Yes, Irfan.
Difference between the two lines.
Like yes, the steel and like when you draw it on the graph, so what will be the difference between the graph or the two lines?
Uh, I'm not sure. Will the copper? Actually, no, I'm not sure. I don't.
Okay, basically you can check it with a young modulus. Okay, so over here the steel has a greater young modulus. Okay, so if you just check the formula for the young modulus, FL over AE. Okay, so young modulus is basically equivalent to that thing, right? And over here in the graph we are doing the force extension graph, right? So young modulus is related with the sorry young modulus and the graph is basically related that way, right? F over E. So if an object has a greater E, greater capital E, so it will going to have the greater gradient, okay? Because F over E will give you the gradient, okay? And if a material have the lesser E, lesser capital E, so it will going to have the lesser gradient, okay? So a steel wire will have the greater gradient, okay? It will be the steep line, and the other one would be the shallowest line, okay? Or the shallow line. So this should be the steel and this should be the copper. Okay, clear? Okay, चलो भैया आगे आ जाओ। आ जाओ भाई, क्या नाम है? यूसुफ जरा रीड कर लो प्लीज।
Okay. By reference to direction of the propagation of energy, state what is meant by longitudinal wave and by a transverse wave.
हम्म।
Okay. Longitudinal when vibrations move parallel to the direction of propagation of energy, and transverse is when vibrations move perpendicular to the direction of propagation of energy.
लेकिन एक मिनट, क्या चीज?
Vibration.
ओके ओके। सो आप पार्टिक वाइब्रेशन ऑफ द पार्टिकल, या भी कह सकते हो कि भाई ऑसिलेशन ऑफ पार्टिकल particle, sorry, parallel to the direction of propagation. सही हो गया. एंड यहाँ पे इसी को कॉपी पेस्ट करके काम चला लेते हैं. It will be the oscillation of the particles are perpendicular, perpendicular, perpendicular to the direction of propagation. Okay, fine. अच्छा जी, जस्ट इसकी एग्जाम में रिपोर्ट देख लेते हैं बस. Okay, so a significant number of candidates did not gain credit as they did not follow the instruction in the stamp to refer the direction of the propagation of the energy. The answers given was generally imprecise, with many refer to the direction of the wave travel or the direction of the motion of the wave. These answers are were not considered to be precise enough to gain credit. Okay, so you have to say the direction of the oscillation, the direction of vibration, or something like that. Okay, marking की देख लो. Vibration is acceptable, oscillation is also acceptable, or the wave or the particle. Okay, fine. चलो आगे आ
Okay. The intensity of a sound wave passing through air is given by I is equals to kVp f square a square, where I is the intensity, power per unit area, k is a constant with no units, v is the speed of sound, p is density of air, f is the frequency of the wave, and a is the amplitude of the wave. Show that both sides of the equation have the same SI base units. So I will be is equals to p over a. So power was force into velocity, so kg ms minus 2 into velocity, which is ms minus 1, will give you kg s minus 1 as the power. No,
S
no,
negative
okay,
1
that will
or
be
S negative 2.
s negative 1.
kg m square S negative 3 होना चाहिए. नहीं.
Negative 3 over, sorry, s negative 3 over.
Yes. Okay. So intensity has this unit. Okay. And
Okay, and then ms minus 1 multiplied by kg m minus 3 square, m minus 3 into s minus 1 square into m square. M to the power 4 actually, because you square that also. That also becomes kg s minus 3.
अच्छा look, they're saying show that. Okay, so so first write the left hand side. Okay, and then solve for the left hand side, and then show the right or say the right hand side. So and then solve for the right hand side. Okay, be careful. Okay, you have to show each and everything in that in this type of question. Okay, and now they're saying k has no unit, so you can ignore it. M as negative 1, and then density kg m negative 3, and second negative 2, and then meter negative meter squared. Okay, fine. So this and this goes off. Okay, and just are so it will be left. So kg and s negative 3 will be left. Okay, so you can say that. Come on. Left hand side is equals to right hand side, right? And this is what you shown. Okay, so and since it is 3 mark question, so just check the examiner's key. The majority of the candidate made a very good attempt using the base unit to show this relationship. There was some candidate who obtained the correct expression for one side only to find that this did not agree with their answer to the opposite side. Often they then attempt to change the wrong side of the equation, and this results in the incorrect solution. Okay, fine. तो होशियारी नहीं करनी अपनी तरफ से कुछ भी. सही है. आगे आ जाओ प्लीज.
Okay. Describe Doppler effect, the change in observed frequency due to the relative motion of source and observer.
Okay. Acha, by the way, this Doppler's effect is also included in 2016. Okay. So we can say that it is a change in the observed frequency due to the motion Okay, due to the relative motion. Okay, the just motion is not acceptable due to the relative motion of source and observer. Observer. Fine. Acha, just checking the examiner's report. The significant number gave the correct response. A common mistake was to describe the change in the frequency as a change in the frequency from the source rather than just change in the observed frequency. Okay, so change in the observed frequency should be mentioned. Another error was to refer to the observed frequency change as due to the change in the position of the source rather than the relative motion between the. Okay, fine. So be careful. Fine. Let's move on.
Okay, so a distant star is moving away from a stationary observer. State the effect of the motion on the light observed from the star. Because it's moving away, wavelength increases, frequency decreases.
Okay. So, what you observed, you cannot observe the wavelength. Like you observe the wavelength in terms of color, right? So you have to say the greater wavelength will appear to be red, okay? Which you studied as red shift, okay? ये रेड शिफ्ट वाला कौन से बोल दो दिस इज इन A2 बट बस ये शुरू में इन्होंने एक दफ़ा पूछा था सही सो ड्यू टू मूविंग अवे the light appeared will have greater wavelength and hence the star will appear red will appear red okay चलिए आगे आ जाइए
Okay. A car travels at a constant speed toward the stationary observer. The horn of the car sounds at a frequency of 510 Hz, and the observer hears a frequency of 550 Hz. The speed of sound in air is 314 meters per second. Calculate the speed of the car. So over here, the horn sounds at frequency 510 towards a stationary observer. So if it's going towards, it's minus.
but
So
why why
frequency
why
of
why why two words
because if it's going towards, it's minus.
आई
And so,
हाई इन्होंने यहाँ पे अच्छा द कार ड्राइवर कॉन्सेंस टूवर्ड अगर टूवर्ड नहीं लिखा होता यहाँ पे तो आप कैसे
then,
पता चलते आपको कैसे पता चलता
mm, it's going to,
सॉरी
but यही तो होता है कि if it's going towards, it's going to be minus. If it's going
यस वो सही
from,
है आप सही कह रहे हो मैं वो नहीं कह रहा लेकिन इन्होंने यहाँ पे ऑल द क्वेश्चन के अंदर दे मेंशन दैट द ऑब्जेक्ट इज मूविंग टुवर्ड द स्टेशनरी ऑब्जर्वर राइट बट मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि इफ लेट्स से they didn't mention this toward thing in the question okay
oh, yeah, because frequency increases, right? So that means
yes
it's going
very
towards.
good very good very good very good so fine so f naught is equals to v over v minus vs times the s okay so 550 divided by 510 equals to 340 divided by 340 minus Vs. Okay. And then uh I so 340 minus Vs is equals to 340 times 5110 divided by 550 550 is ये बेकार स्टेप हो गया 510 right and then 340 minus this whole thing. So yeah, minus this whole thing is equals to Vs. How much?
It comes as 24.7.
24.7 to 25. Sure, done. Um, परफेक्ट। चलो भाई आ जाओ। कितने क्वेश्चन बाकी हैं भैया? अच्छा, दिस इज नॉट द पार्ट ऑफ द सिलेबस। दो क्वेश्चन बाकी हैं भाई। आ जाओ भाई। इमाद प्लीज यूज द क्वेश्चन।
Light of a single wavelength is incident on a diffraction grating. Explain the part played by the diffraction and the interference in the production of the first order maximum by the diffraction grating.
ओके।
Explain the part.
Sir, I can't hear properly. Can I leave and join back?
ओके।
So, do you read the definition or?
Basically you have to define it using the scenario given. Okay.
Sir, it allows the it allows the light to bend after passing through the grating.
Okay. Adjust. You can say that spreading of light after passing through the grating. Good. Okay, let's move on.
Interference.
Hmm.
Sir, when the waves overlap or superimpose, the resultant displacement is the individual sum of the displacement.
Okay. Okay, bye. You can leave. Okay. So you're saying when two waves overlap. Acha. They're saying um overlap. तो आप ये कहोगे कि इंटरफेरेंस है ना, सो इंटरफेरेंस के अंदर when the two wave overlap with the path difference with the path difference. I say it's not talking about the superposition, okay? So it's talking, they are talking about the interference, right? So interference means you should have to mention the phase difference and the path difference, okay? When the two wave overlap with a path difference of n lambda and phase difference of um 360n, okay? By the way, they are saying explain the part played by the diffraction and the interference between the first order maxima. Okay, so when the wave from the two slits, you can say that when the wave from the different slits overlap at the screen with a path difference of one lambda rather than n lambda, one lambda. Okay, and the phase difference of just 360 degree because it's a zeroth order, right? Or sorry, first order, na? First order, no. So at first order, there should be two lambda. No, one lambda, one lambda. One lambda and 360 degrees. Okay. So when the two wave from, या आप ये कह सकते हो कि इसको थोड़ा सा सही कर देते हैं. So when the wave from the grating overlap overlap with the path difference of one lambda and the phase difference of 360 degrees. Okay, it form the first order maxima. Okay, now let me just show you the examiner report. The description of the diffraction at a diffraction grating generally lacked detail. Mention of the wave passing through a slit, narrow gap, or grating element are often omitted. The majority of the candidate were able to explain the part played by the interference. Very few candidates explain that the path difference between the wave arrive. Okay, so you have to mention that, okay, because they're asking for the first order. Okay, आगे आ जाओ.
The diffraction grating illustrated in figure 5.1 is used with light of wavelength 486 nanometers. The orders of maxima produced are shown on the screen in figure 5.1. The angle between the two second order maxima is 59.4 degrees. Calculate the number of lines per millimeter on the grating.
Mm-hmm. So if they're saying 59.4, so you have to have the angle, right?
Yes,
Good. So that would be 30, no, 29.2,
29.7.
29.7. Okay, भैया. The number of line per millimeter. Okay, fine. So n lambda equals d sine theta. Okay, and 2 times lambda is how much? 486. 486 exponent negative 9. Okay, and d is to be found. Okay, and sine theta is 29.7. How much?
Sir, 1.96 exponent negative 6.
Okay, 1.96 exponent negative 6. Okay, this is not the final answer. Okay, this is the line. This is the thickness of one line. Okay, so this is for one line. Okay, one line. This is the thickness of one line, right? So how many lines will be there? How many lines will be there in 1 millimeter? 1 exponent negative 3, right? Just do the cross multiplication. 1 exponent negative 3 divided by 1.96 exponent negative 6 gives you n. सही हो गया.
Sir, 510.
515. Perfect. 510. Perfect. Okay जी. Last question. आ जाओ भाई. Irfan, please use the question.
A battery of electromotive force 9 volt and a electric current is flow of charge carriers. The charge on the carrier is quantized. Explain what is meant by quantized.
Mm-hmm. Quantize has a meaning of like quantity. It is from the quantity, and quantity mean everything is basically existing in the discrete or in the specific amount. Okay, so you can say that charge exists in discrete amount. Okay, chalo, move on.
A battery of electromotive force 9 volt and internal resistance 0.25 ohm is connected in series with two identical resistors X and resistor Y, as shown in figure 7.1. The resistance of each resistor X is 0.515 ohm, and the resistance of resistor Y is 2.7 ohm. Show that the current in circuit is 2.8 amps.
2.8, the current in the circuit. Okay, so you have the total resistance, you have the total voltage, you can find out the total current, right? V equals to IR. So 9 volts the battery.
You have to
Okay,
use it. EMF
sorry.
is equal to
Mm-hmm.
wait. EMF
No,
is
you
equal
just need
to
to.
I bracket R cap.
Yes, you just need to use V equals to IR, and in R you have to add the total resistance. Okay, so 0.25 plus 0.15, is that clear? Plus 2.7 plus 0.15. Okay, You have to do that way, right? Because you are finding the current in the circuit, right? So current in the circuit will be due to the all the resistance of the circuit and the battery, right? The voltage of the battery. Okay, clear? So 9
Yeah.
divided by, like, जो भी total, whatever the total you are getting, 0.3, 0.354555, and 3.1 will be the total resistance, I think.
I'm getting
3.2.
3.39.
Okay. As a resistance? As a resistance? So I am getting the current as 2.769. Okay. That would be rounded off to 2.8. Okay. Sure. Let's move on.
Calculate the potential difference across the battery.
Across the battery means you have to find out the potential difference at these 2 points, right? Or we can also say that at these 2 points, right? Because across the battery means this is the battery, okay? So just to multiply, just do the V equals to IR again. Now we have to find V. I is 2.8, right? 2.8. Acha, 2.8. What will be your resistance, Irfan? Yes.
Uh, we have to take the internal resistance into consideration, or
No, we are
because
working
it's
for this
actually
resistance, huh? For these resistance. Because internal resistance is inside the battery,
across
right?
the
And
battery, then this is across the battery. Okay, so it's just 0.15 plus 0.
yes. So it is 0.15 plus 0.15, 0.3 हो जाएगा, plus 2.7, okay, equals to V, okay, just solve.
I'm getting 8.4.
8.4, 8.4, which means out of 9 volt, 8.4 drop across this point, and zero point 0.6 drop across the internal resistance, okay, fine. Okay, let's move on.
Okay.
Yes, please read the question.
Each resistor X connector in circuit B is made from a wire with a cross-sectional area of 2.5 millimeters square. The number of free electrons per unit volume in the wire is 8.5 into 10 to the power 29 meter cubed.
Per meter cube,
Calculate
okay.
the speed in electrons in X of the electrons in X.
Okay, which formula you use? There's only one formula, I equals to NA
New
QV.
BQ.
Yes. So you know the current, right? Because it is in the circuit. So you have to use 2.8 as a current, right? Divided by N has a value of 8.5, exponent 29, times it by A has a value of 2.5, exponent negative, it has a millimeter squared, so negative 3 due to the millimeter, and when you square the negative 3, you'll get negative 6, okay? So negative 6. Okay, and times it by the value of the charge is 1.6 exponent negative 19. Okay, and this will give you the drift velocity.
I'm getting 8.235 into 10 to the power minus 6.
10 to the power negative 6, okay, which means they're moving very slow, huh? 8.2 exponent negative 6. Wait, let me see. Hmm, okay, this is correct. Okay, fine. Okay, let's move on. Yes, Irfan.
The two resistors X are replaced by the two resistors Z made of the same material and length but with half. Decide the Describe and explain the difference between the average resist speed in Z and that in X.
Okay. So if they're saying same material means having the same resistivity, same length, okay. So resistance is equals to rho L over A. Okay. You can replace the R with I, V over I, V over I. Okay. And you can further replace I with N A Q V. Fine. Now the two resistors are replaced by the two resistors, same material, same length, but half the diameter. Okay. So if you're decreasing the diameter, if you are decreasing the
It
diameter,
moves slower, right?
um, okay, yes, because we have the direct proportion. Shuji.
And also the resistance is increasing, so
Wait, wait, wait.
due to the
So basically, if you okay, this is R, na? So if you have the diameter, which means the resistance will increase by the factor of 4, right? Because diameter is basically has a square relation with the area and also with R, right? So um, resistance will increase by the factor of 4, okay, by the factor of 4, and if the resistance increases, so current will go down, right? Because the resistance is increasing, right? And if the current goes down, this means that uh, your drift velocity, okay, current goes down, okay. इसको हम relate कैसे करें? So resistance is increasing, so V over I is R, and I should decreases, right? And if I decreases, so the drift velocity will also be decreases. सही हो गया. चले. So हमारे पास जो आएगा A the okay reducing the diameter by the factor of 2 will increase the resistance by the factor of 4. Okay. So if you're in okay, so which causes the current to go down to goes down, right? And acha, by the way, since we have two resistors, okay, so the total resistance will be increased by the factor of 8, so the total current will be decreased by the factor of 8, right? So so the total current will go down um by the factor of, wait, the two resistors, okay, two resistors of the Z. Okay, so one, if you increase the resistance of one by the factor of 4, so the combined effect will be the factor of 8. So yeah, and the resistance will be decreasing. The resistance will be increasing by the factor of 8, so the current will be decreasing, and So it should be the velocity goes down. So the current goes down. Uh, by the
The thing is, they're asking, describe and explain the difference between speeds. So we need to write about average speed and what happens to the average speed. Like it decreases in Z, then
yes. So that's what I am also saying. That like the Z then X, na? So the average speed will be smaller in Z than in X. Okay, and due to these reasons, goes down greater by the greater factor. So in Z, um, V will be smaller. अच्छा जी. अच्छा इसको चेक कर लेते हैं जल्दी से. Hmm, अच्छा जी. They are saying reduced by the factor of 4. Okay. A reduced by सही है. The resistance goes up by the factor of 8. This is correct. Current goes down by less than a factor of 4. Okay. R equals to V over I. Okay. So the total current is the total resistance is increased by greater factor. So the total current will decrease by greater factor. As the total resistance goes down, total resistance does not go up by the factor of 4. Okay, okay, okay. Fine. अच्छा इसकी हम ये भी देख लेते हैं एग्जामिनर रिपोर्ट. This part was challenging. There were some complete correct answers. A large proportion of the answer did not receive full credit. Imprecise, the diameter is quoted as changing to the half of the original value. Complete answer required the quantitative response and therefore answer that describe the resistance as increasing without describing the actual factor in the change lacked the necessary detail. Many candidates thought that the current would remain constant even resistance. Okay, fine. So this is incorrect approach by the way. Okay. So now they're saying okay, the circuit contain the resistance of Y as well, right? So when you increase the resistance, when you change the X, resistor X, so this will increase their individual resistance by the factor of 4, but the total resistance of the circuit will not decrease by the factor of 4 because you are not changing Y, right? So that is why the total current will be will decrease less than the factor of 4. So there will be the drift velocity greater than like the drift velocity will be greater in z than in y, right? So that this is the reason. So हम इसको ये कर सकते हैं. So the current which causes okay, so we can add here that the y is unchanged. So total resistance is not increased by the factor of 4. Okay, so total current will not be decreased by factor of 4. So v, which is the drift velocity, will be v will be greater. Okay, so you can say that way. चलो भाई. अच्छा ये क्वेश्चन है. रेयान से रीड कर लो प्लीज.
State the name of the class to which each of the following belongs.
हम्म इलेक्ट्रॉन बिलोंग टू इलेक्ट्रॉन। क्या हो गया, इसकी जवाब क्यों नहीं दे रहे हो यार, कुछ तो बोलो। एंड
Okay.
न्यूट्रॉन्स बिलोंग टू
So hadrons.
hadrons. Okay, neutrino belong to
Electron
leptons.
and
Uh,
And proton belongs to hadrons.
hadron.
Okay, good. And the proton may be decayed. Okay, complete the equation. Okay, so proton is converting into neutron. So neutron has 1 comma 0, and it will be proton is converting into, so there will be a beta plus. Okay, okay, and there will be a neutrino 0 comma 0. Okay, is that clear? Now,
yes. So
equation in terms of quark. Okay, how you write this equation? So an up quark of the proton will be converted into a down quark of the neutron plus the beta positive plus the neutrino. Okay, and the rest of the up and the down remains the same, and up and down remains the same, right? Okay, and state the name of the force responsible for the decay. So weak interaction force, your weak nuclear force causes all the decays, right? So weak nuclear force. Okay, so that's it. This paper is done, right? Acha. So your homework for tomorrow would be March 2016 42 22. Okay, and you have to submit as well. Okay, so this is the paper for the homework for tomorrow's class. Okay, Jai ji. That's it for today. We'll meet you tomorrow. Take care, guys. Allah Hafiz.
Allah
Allah Hafiz.